Alison Bell, welcome to my show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So let me introduce Alison Bell to my audience. This show, as you all know, I am very drawn to people who have that quality that I call gas, which is give a shit. Um, the one thing that nobody can teach you, you read a book on it, you can't take a course in it, you can't get trained in it, you can't get a degree in it. All people have a certain level of gas baked in them, some more than others. I particularly am drawn to people who have an extraordinarily high level of gas, and I try to share that to the universe, to the world, and what they're doing about it in their careers, in their lives. So Alison Bell is somebody who I met. I believe we met at one of my events.
Yep.
Um, and we met at my event, and then we said, you know what? She got invited by somebody who I invited, the Secret Sauce Society. And we then got to know each other, and we've had mass respect for one another. She is a recruiter. Now that does not define the person of who she is. Really, that's true. It doesn't define who you are. She is somebody who, I guess, in a way to sum up Alison, is she's somebody who just wants to make a difference. She wants to make a difference with the people she works with. She wants to make a difference with the companies she works with. She just gives a shit. And, frankly, I don't know if she's God's gift to recruiters, but I can tell you this woman gives a shit. This much I know. So, Alison, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you. So let me ask you, I know this about you, right? I know, like the night I met you, I remember you stayed until the end. It was me, Derek, and you. And you were helping Derek and I clean up and load up our cars. And, don't think obviously the fact that I remembered that tells you that I pay attention to those things. And it told me something about you. It told me something about the person that you were, and how you wanted to help. And it's just the nature of who you are. So I ask this question a lot. Where do you think that comes from inside of you? How did you get that? Was that something your parents were like? How did you get to be this way?
So I would say it's my upbringing. My parents weren't as much involved with it as I would say my grandparents were. So my grandmother was a social worker, and her parents were actually missionaries. And they always taught me to give and that good things will happen. And I feel really blessed in my life. So I've always given, and the more I give, the better life gets. So I think it's a great way to live your life. When stuff doesn't go the way you want it to go, give to somebody else. And it feels good. When you have a bad day, help somebody that's having a worse day. And it gives you perspective on life.
So what you said was it was your grandmother that taught you. It was your grandparents' parents that were missionaries?
Yeah.
So your great-grandparents were missionaries. And so your grandmother told you about giving, and obviously that struck a chord with you because that's what you do. So, so you give. So explain to me, see, people say, oh, well, you give. And one of the things I say, Alison, is giving for the sake of giving really is not helping. That really only feeds ego or insecurity. Giving to find out what some people really need, and giving just that, is what we're supposed to give, right? We're supposed to, not everybody wants to receive. Oh, I just got off the phone. I was just telling you, we were speaking, by the way, my audience, before we jumped on the show, and I was speaking to a friend, but what I didn't tell you is she refuses. And it's not refuses like, no, I won't accept it. It just doesn't even compute. She will not get help. She will not get help. It's somebody who's struggling. And I said, one of the things you have to learn in life, whether you're a CEO, whether you're a person who sweeps floors, whether you're a drug addict, is to know to ask for help. She won't. And so I think one of the things I learned in being a giver was to be conscious of this. Some people will not, I've been trying to help her forever. She will not accept my help. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever met anyone who would not accept your help?
I don't know. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people that in like college that I wanted to help. Maybe they were addicted to drugs, maybe their alcohol drinking was just out of control. But for the most part, people are really receptive to help.
They are. Totally agree. And it happens, it's a needle in a haystack. I totally agree. But it happens, you know, because every day of my life, you know, my thing where I have a coffee a day and I make 5 introductions a day. I find out what their challenge is and I try to make an introduction for people, and I do 5 a day, and I'm doing it now. Nothing has changed, even though there's people aren't going out. I'm still doing the same thing. And I've done it every day for 28 years. And I have to tell you, because I do it so often, I do come across people more often that are not receptive to help. So you're in the help business, though. You're in the business of taking someone who either is in a job or displaced in a very uncomfortable place in their life and putting them into a comfortable place, right? And it's a very personal process. So why don't you share with our audience a little bit about how you make it more personal, what your little special touch that you put on that process?
My goal with every person, every client that I talk to is to make sure that I'm leaving them with value. Because if I give them value, I know that I have an impact. Even if I can't place them all, I'll see most candidates I work with don't get jobs. But at least if I know if I gave them the skills to really do interviewing and I had an impact on them, then I feel like I did them justice. And I feel that lots of recruiters don't provide value to everybody. And another thing I do is I get back to people. If I don't know what's going on, I tell them, hey, no update. Or if they didn't get the job, I call them and say, hey, you know, somebody else got the job, but I wanted to call you in person and tell you you're still a great candidate. And it's nothing, you know, nothing against you, but I want to personally tell you that, you know, I appreciate you going through the whole process, and I would gladly represent you again if you'd allow.
So it sounds like you're trying to connect with them emotionally, not just on a professional level.
Yeah. I would say absolutely. I mean, all my candidates I've worked with stay in touch with me. I don't need to stay in touch with them. When the next time they're open for a job, they'll reach out to me. I rarely have to, you know, check up on people. People know that I'm a great recruiter and I care. And even if I'm not working with them on a job, I'll still help them if they call me for questions like, hey, I have an interview coming up. Can you give me a prep? And I say, yeah, of course.
So do you have any particular niche or specialty? If somebody, I mean, there's a lot of people looking for jobs now, Alison, like a lot. What is your sweet spot?
My sweet spot is, sorry, my dog. That's not my sweet spot, but my sweet spot is usually young SaaS companies or companies like that, fast scooters. Like, they have to have a good culture. They have to have something to hold on to, something where I send somebody, I know I'm not sending them to a bad home. I want them to have a purpose. So typically it's in the software, you know, space, technology space, but more importantly, they have to have a great culture because I can't send people to a bad home.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. So you talked about the companies you're placing them to. You didn't really talk about the people. So obviously the skill sets of those people you're putting in those companies are technology people, coders.
Mostly sales. I would say sales, marketing.
Okay. Well, this is helpful because you did not say this. So the companies you work with are SaaS companies, which is software as a service. For those that don't know, those are the companies you see online where almost the entire experience, you're either using their software or you're using their platform. That's a SaaS company. That's a software as a service. So those are the predominance of your clients, but you're not willing to work with companies unless you feel that the people that you're placing there are going to a wonderful place. So how do you find that out? How do you know if it's real or if fake? And let me tell you something. There's a lot of companies that from the outside look like a really cool company to work for because there's a guy working there with his dog and there's beer on tap. But then once you get through it, it's really not a great place. They're not promoting their people. There's none of the cool cult. It's not how they hire or fire people. They're just bringing anybody on. So what do you look for? How do you sniff that out?
Well, I got my master's in industrial organizational psychology, which I spent 3 years learning just that. I'm more of a consultant than anything else. So I know exactly how to look for a good culture. There's red flags everywhere. I make sure to interview.
Explain. Tell us give us an example of a red flag.
Well, you want to look at how long people stay there. You want to be able to, I always make sure that I can talk to CEO and find out their why, find out what excites them. I also look at past employees. So I'll reach out on LinkedIn and ask somebody that no longer works there and ask them for their opinion of the place.
That's great.
I do rule 3. I think 3 is a good amount. I'm realistic though. I get that some people, disgruntled employees won't give a good view, but typically if you look at all the different signs, you can put it together. Also do a walkthrough of the building. It's how people greet each other, how people walk by each other. It's the pictures on the walls. It's what the bathroom looks like. It's what the break room looks like.
That's helpful. Thank you. So you do your due diligence, so to speak, of these companies. And then once you feel great about them, then you start trying to find them salespeople, SaaS salespeople, to help them grow their company, correct? So,
yeah. Just to be clear, I'm not like a one trick pony. I mean, I have a background in sales recruiting, but I mean, I've recruited for CFOs, I've recruited for leadership, I've recruited for coders. But I would say what I'm most well known for is sales and marketing. But in terms of, I can find anybody that works for those kind of companies. It's not hard, it's like figure out what skills they need, what competencies, and then I match it up. So I don't think that, now if you're a staffing agency that you're looking for time, speed, and you want to deliver quickly, and you're not doing kind of like I'm more boutique and I'm a little bit more tailored to whatever their needs are. But I can really recruit for any role in those spaces, but the bulk of my experience, probably 75 of it, probably been more on the sale people side.
Okay, and I knew that, but I'm glad you brought that up. So you can help with other things. So, do you enjoy, like, what comes across with me, Alison, is that you really love what you do. You really love. I mean, you'll put in, there's the extra mile, and then there's a mile past that. That's just kind of the person that you are. Was this something you've always done, or how long have you been in this field?
I went to grad school in early, I think it was 2011, I started grad school. But before that, I was in sales, and I've always cared. And then it was natural. I got my degree in HR, and I had a background in sales. Recruiting is a natural place for me to be. But I always believe, find a job that you love. If I don't love what I do, I don't want to go work.
I hear you. So now's got to be a particularly difficult time for you, right? Because companies aren't hiring, or the tech companies really still are.
I am, like I said, I'm not a one-trick pony. Right now put the recruiting aside for a second, and I also do consulting. So I'm working with companies, and I'm actually giving advice for free to companies that are struggling to adjust to the current situation. I'm writing blogs on giving great strategies. I've been researching how to create engagement, how to build a virtual team, how to have more purpose in times of crisis. So that will be coming out next week. I've done tons of great research. I have great blogs, and I'm actually just giving back to the community and companies that need help.
Okay, so you're consulting. So the kind of consulting you're doing, how would you describe that consulting?
Well, right now I'm helping companies adjust to moving virtually, and how to build like a great culture and how to get employee engagement up.
Okay, and so you're working with companies in that. But can I ask you though, from being that you're an insider, in general, the recruiting industry, is that being hit pretty hard?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nobody's hiring right now.
Well, I mean, that's what I thought, but I didn't get that response from you. You would think so. Now, are there industries that are doing quite well? Sure there are. Not that many, but there are, right? I mean, look, Zoom is doing just fine, and there are lots of other SaaS companies. This is Zoom, right? There are other SaaS companies doing great. I think, obviously the thing to do and the advice I would give somebody, and I'm not a recruiter, but the advice I'd give anybody is, look, even during tough times, there are companies that are able to thrive because they're lucky. It's just, that's a service that's needed during these tough times. If I were you, I don't mean you, I mean the audience that's looking for a job, list those companies that are really doing well, like supply chain companies doing really well right now. I mean, list those companies and see how your skills can maybe apply to some of those companies, because those companies probably are overwhelmed right now. So, that would be something that I would say. But what do I know? I'm not a recruiter like you. So if people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way? If they want to read your blog, if they want to say, hey, I like what you're about, Alison, maybe you can help us with a particular issue. How do they get in touch with you? How do they find out more?
Well, they can reach me on LinkedIn, which is Alison with one L and then Bell, B-E-L-L. And I'm the person with a bunch of letters after my name. Or you can call me, you can text me. All my information is on my LinkedIn. And my website being built right now, and my blog, I'm launching it next week. So, and it's
nice.
strategichireconsulting.com.
Strategic Hire?
Yeah, H-I-R-E.
Strategichireconsulting.com. Alison is A-L-I-S-O-N, one L. Bell, B-E-L-L. Look her up in LinkedIn. Alison, it really is, I consider you a friend. You're somebody who has done nothing short of always try and help me in every way. Don't think I have not noticed. I have noticed how you've helped promote my events, how you've bought tickets for your friends. Don't think I have never noticed, because I have. And, people want to know, like, and trust who they're working with. So thank you for sharing a little bit about you, a little bit about your history and your story. And folks, if you need a little help creating engagement or a specific type of recruiting need, reach out to Alison. Alison, you're a gem. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you making time to talk to me today.
Thank you. I appreciate being on here. It's always great talking to you. You'll always have a special place in my heart.
Aww. Now you
remember, I started this company when I was at your event. So somebody said, why aren't you a consultant? And I said, I don't know. So 3 days later, I started my company. So not because of you. Thank you.
It's not because of me. It was just, I just happened to be there on the way of you making that happen. I mean, you're just a special person, and I'm glad I've had the opportunity here in public to share with you that how much I have paid attention to the little things that you've done, and they've meant something to me, and I just wanted you to know I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll see you.
Bye.